Aloha, welcome to a new series of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. This is series number 10. We are so happy to have reached now over 180 episodes, and we are thankful for all the support we receive from you every day. It doesn't happen every day to have as a guest a true legend and an icon for all of us surfers, a true waterman from Hawaii, Jock Sutherland. We discuss with him about surf, surfboards, Hawaii, and much more. Hello, Mr. Sutherland. Welcome to the show. Where are you today?
I am here about a quarter mile from Waimea Bay, Alessandro, because I'm in my son's house right next to a Catholic church that's been here for 60, 70 years, St. Peter and Paul Catholic Church. And we both combined on doing some roofing work over there. And one of the fellows who's a big contributor to the church's welfare. He's a wealthy man, and his wife too, from San Francisco Bay Area. His grandfather helped build the Golden Gate Bridge. But so Gavin and I have a chance to redo the whole church's roof, not the steeple, mind you, because that's 40 feet tall, but all the rectory and the assembly hall, everything in there, which is a big job. At first, they wanted to have somebody with big insurance, which I don't have. Because I used to work for a company union back 40 years ago. Mostly I've been on my own since, but so Gavin and I maybe we'll be working on the church, but it's right next door. It's like 100 feet away, the church. So we're in a pretty quiet neighborhood. Luckily for my son, he doesn't live right next to the highway. So we're 100 feet away from the highway, but there's still plenty of traffic noises as compared to where I live up the hill here in Pupukea, about 2 miles up the hill. And that's overlooking Waimea Valley, which is a mile over this way. And so it's nice and quiet and cooler, not so much salt there. You can grow more stuff up there.
It's nice to do a meaningful job and helping the church to rebuild the roof, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he also wants me to do their personal house up there. And so I'm glad I'm talking about him, because I need to call him up and reassure him that I haven't forgotten entirely about him.
Okay. Please.
His last name is Ginella.
Maybe some Italian origin.
Yeah.
Some Italian origin, yeah, maybe. And but please don't go 40-meter high or whatever. Take care of yourself.
I would rather not, and my family doesn't want me to do that either.
Exactly. I'm sure about it. I'm really sure about it.
But even though, as you know, when you're in a trade, and people in your community know that you're okay, you don't charge too much, you don't gouge, you don't cheat, and if something goes wrong, they can call you up and you can come back. You have integrity, right?
Yeah.
That the people in the community know, well, I know he needs to make wages, but we don't have $20,000 to make a new roof. Can you bandage our roof, right? And so, patch it. So that's something that I'll probably be doing for another 5 years. I might be working when I'm 85 years old, Alessandro.
Wow.
If you're that good, you probably don't make that many mistakes, right? Even though they say that it's a measure of your skill to be able to know how well you can fix somebody else's mess up, right? Somebody else's, I don't want to use the F word, but yeah. It's how well you can fix somebody else's screw ups, right? Anyways,
and keeping working will keep you young.
That's all. I keep hearing about that. That somebody retires from work and they go sit on the couch. They collect their pension money, but in 5 years they die of a heart attack or something because they're not, challenging themselves.
They're not used to do that. My grandfather is 93 and every day is going to work. He has like a little mechanic whatever. And every day he goes to work. He does 4 kilometers walking to the workplace and come back.
Travel to and back. Yeah. Well, not walking. Bicycle, car. Car he's driving?
No, walking.
Walking.
Yeah.
No. So a mechanic, huh? What, car mechanic or? all around?
Yeah. It's related to car. It's related to car. So, but it's amazing, It's and he is doing every single day. He's 93, so he keeps him going. So it's good.
Yeah. Some good.
Whatever doesn't kill us make us stronger, they say, right?
Some good food and bread and wine at the end of the day, cheese,
Maybe not too much cheese, but
yeah. Well, he's realizing, what makes him feel good the next day or the couple of days after.
Exactly.
What town does he live in?
Nearby Milan in Italy.
Okay, not too far from the city, maybe, or suburb, small town.
Yeah, exactly.
What's his name?
Pietro, like
Pietro.
Peter St. Paul, Pietro.
Yeah. Does he have your same last name?
No, it's from my mother name.
Oh yes, oftentimes in countries like in South America or Europe, the mom's name takes precedent because it's more well known.
No, we don't have that kind of thing. Anyway, it's good to be in shape and healthy, and
How far away is he from you, Alessandro?
Me, I live in Dubai, so I imagine.
Right. Maybe you call him up. It's nice to have a cell phone. You can just call up, international, and that doesn't cost too much. In the old days, would cost a lot.
Yeah, no. But I'm very happy because the day after tomorrow I fly to Italy, so I'm gonna see him.
Are you gonna take him something, some present? How do you say gift in
regalo?
Oh, just like in España, regalo.
Yeah,
right.
Say I never paid attention to that, but yeah. Italian and Spanish, they're very close, right? So
they're romance. Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about many legendary things. But the first thing that I would like to know from your side is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
To be able to see somebody else, or to be able to help somebody else get into a good wave, because they're having a little bit of a hard time choosing, getting set up, paddling to where the good wave is. And if you can help them to get into that position and to see what the good wave is, as long as they have some kind of basic level of competence and being able to get them into a good wave that challenges them, and to have them come back out and say, that was the best tube I ever had, or that was a great wave. I've never had a wave, So basically, I guess I'm saying, to put it more succinctly, to put it more precisely, I think the best thing in surfing is to be able to share or to give someone else the experience that you have had for 40, 50, 60 years.
But then,
it's very close to being as good as your catching the good wave. And sometimes it's better because you know that you've already had 5 waves and you're looking over here and here's this poor guy hasn't caught any, and he's looking at you like, I want some, but he's in the wrong position. So you help him. As long as he can paddle and get to his feet nicely. And so if he's young or old or medium, oftentimes surfing is hard. So to be able to help somebody increase their ability, sometimes it doesn't take but a couple of good words, encouraging words, oh, you're doing okay. Just try to maybe fade left when you're taking off because the wind is bringing the crosswell and you get hung up. You won't be able to take off if you don't take care of the takeoff properly.
Yeah. And definitely, it's part of the spirit of aloha, to give.
Help somebody if they lose their board in the old days, say, before leashes. Very much a big part. Sportsmanship, aloha spirit, yes. Very important nowadays. And nowadays, not so much, but increasingly, because people realize how little regard oftentimes is given to being respectful and loving to each other, that it's more and more of an imperative. It's more and more necessary to help keeping each other from, like, say, here in Hawaii, the cost of living is very high, and oftentimes somebody has got a hard job where they're having to go to a toxic atmosphere every day, or they're in their family home. Maybe mom and dad have got problems, and they're trying to, it's a money problem oftentimes, but sometimes it's something else, something that they've gotten into, alcohol, whatever. And so I work for my friend Dwayne DeSoto, who's a champion longboarder, and he has been running for the past 10, 12 years, maybe more, a children's ocean skills program called Nakama Kai. Nakama is the children of the ocean. So ocean children, and it teaches them about 5 or 6 different things that the second Sunday of every month. We were just here in Haleiwa. Hawaiian Airlines and Dukes gave us a couple of canoes, or outrigger canoes. We can put, 10, 12 kids in each canoe because it's a double hull. Or we have stand-up boards that were donated to us sometimes by Laird Hamilton or this other good friend of mine, Ron House. And then we have land stations where we teach the kids about celestial navigation, the Hawaiian star chart, or we have the voyage of the Hokulea, or the ecology of the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. About 5 or 6 different stations. So the kids go through over a period of about 5 hours, and usually we have 60 or 70 kids. And I feel I guess there's not too many other better words besides blessed to be able to be part of that and to see how much the kids get out of it. They might come, just to maybe get a little experience, and then we get them on a little 1-foot wave, and have them help paddle on. And when you have one of the parents afterwards come up to you and say, "All she wants to do is be a surfer. Now, what did you do to her?" So, but it's very, very educational. And we even have Nainoa Thompson, who was one of the originators, one of the first people to recognize the value for the Hawaiian community in progressing the idea that you can use non-traditional methods, the celestial navigation, to be able to sail long distances. And he's been doing that for some years now, like going on 50 years, that the rest of the community's taking a lot of pride in that. And I'm, because I'm a small part of it, and, got to talk to Nainoa, but some of the people that have been on the voyage are very, very contributive towards the mission of not only Nainoa, but also of Dwayne DeSoto's of the kids' education, and the Board of Education, the state people over here. Mostly it's lip service. They have said, "Oh yeah, we would like, because your program is very valuable to the kids, because in a practical manner, there's many, many kids in Hawaii, thousands, that not necessarily don't know how to swim, but they don't have much ocean knowledge, maybe because mom and dad have got too much work they can't take care of because they're trying to make money just to pay the rent and put food on the table." But the Board of Education has said, "Hey, we really like your program so much that we are going to try to, we have grant money, we have federal assistance money, so that we can get 6,000 or 8,000 public school 4th grade teachers to take their students all through your program." One of the statistics over here that is very serious is that of the 60 or 70 drownings that we have every year in Hawaii, almost half are local people. And that doesn't need to, we need to change that. And so Dwayne that's one of the main parts of the mission is education. We're teaching the kids what to be aware of, what skills to develop, how to work with their friends, to be able to progress that.
But I'm happy that this gives something to them, of course, education.
Oh yeah,
knowledge, but gives a lot to you as well. It's
yeah. It's like not vicarious, but it's a direct feeling of not philanthropy, but a definite feeling of increased aloha in your own heart and soul, to be able to see the progression, to see the gratitude of the kids when they are able to take a paddle. You show them, okay, here's how you hold the paddle. Okay, I'm helping you hold it now, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old kid. Okay. And now you take it. And I'm paddling the board behind them, and standing up. And it's a very substantial feeling of joy that you get from seeing the child realize that he's got the potential to step into something like that, to be able to recognize what the good tools are, and to be able to grow, and to be able to have these tools to increase their knowledge, to be able to get more tools and become a complete human being, so they can not only be very full human beings later on in their life, but to help others that are less fortunate.
Talking about aloha, I know you were saying before that today people are maybe rediscovering the spirit of aloha.
Rejuvenation, rebirth.
But you were there also in the good old days.
Yeah. They were good, but in some ways not so good, because we didn't have leash. A lot of people nowadays, they don't use leash. They hate leashes because it makes the place crowded. Where my girlfriend surfs in San Diego, because it's a college town and the college is only a mile up the hill. We have, on a good day, a small day, not too big, head high, maybe maximum for them, that there will be 3 or 4 of them paddling out on their Jerry Lopez Costco boards, right, getting in the way. And so my girlfriend has said, "Oh, these guys," she gets angry, and she says, "I want you get me Jerry's number. I'll call him up and tell him." But they need to learn too. But it would be good if they didn't learn right at the moment when you're trying to take off.
Of course. But when first in your life you experience this spirit of aloha, when you had that moment that you remember forever, where this aloha that is Hawaiian, of course, where you basically
Back then, it wasn't so much regarded as aloha per se. It was just a feeling of, maybe when I was 14, 15, and my friends from town, because I didn't have a car because we were poor, they would take me up to Pipeline or Sunset. I think when I was 15, I was surfing a little bit better. But even before that, maybe when I was still way young in high school, is that some of the local people that were already surfers a couple of years older than I would take me under their wing, would show me, where to sit. But because my father was a surfer back in the 1930s, that with the old heavy boards that didn't have a skeg on it, and he came over to Hawaii to go to college. Mostly he was surfing. My older sister told me. But he knew some of the people back then that were influenced by Duke, were surfing when Duke was still surfing, like George Downing and Wally Froyseth and these fellows, Rustakaki. And so these guys who knew my dad, they took me under their wing when they would come out to the North Shore. And also the people that were the California pioneers that were first coming to Makaha in the 1950s, like Buzzy Trent and Peter Cole, Fred Van Dyke, and those guys, Jose Angel, they took me under their wing too. So I had friends of my mom and dad's from California, as well as friends of my dad from over here in Hawaii, helping me out in the surf from the time I could surf a little bit bigger wave, from maybe 15, 16 years old. When I was 16, 17 years old, they would say, "Oh, Buzzy Trent, come on over here, Jock, sit over here, And so now I've met Buzzy Trent's son, Ivan, who's a Navy SEAL, and then very, very good surfer, a good paddler. I saw him maybe last in person I think a little after that at a surf film festival, but at a Molokai surf race over on Molokai about 4 years ago. And he was going to paddle too, but now Ivan's sister, Anna Trent Moore, who helps run the Surf Film Festival here in Honolulu, she told me that Ivan has a son, Bud, who was named after Bud Brown, the old surf film maker, we used to stay at my house. Great guy, Bud. But so Ivan's son Bud lives in and was surfing in San Diego recently when the last big swell that we had, and I wish that I had been able to go out and surf with him. But so there's still a lot of opportunity for me as long as I stay in somewhat good shape, like your dad, and like some people that an Austrian friend of mine told me, bicyclers, like up in the Alps.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. They ride almost every day, so they're in really good shape, and they're climbing the mountains, and these guys are in their 80s, and they're beating the guys that are 30 and 40 years old because they have the smarts in them because they're still in good shape.
Exactly.
So,
talking about surfboards, of course, you told us what your father was riding back in the 30s and with the Duke, but what you were riding at the beginning?
My father's old board. Yeah, one of my dad's old balsa boards, and that was very early when I was like 8 years old or so, and then when I was like 10 or 11, he had a balsa pico board, just a body board that he glued on an extra tailpiece, so it was like 6.5 feet long. It had no rocker.
Okay.
Just belly.
Okay.
Right. And I glued on some fins or screwed on some little rudder. Very hard to ride, but that was, I saw some pictures. I still have some maybe in the old Duke footage that some friends of mine gave me. I'll have to send you a thumb drive of it. The old Duke contest from like 1966, 7, 8. Has some pictures of George Downing riding one of the old hot curl boards with no skeg on it, just a V bottom at Haleiwa, on a 6-foot day. Very hard to ride, but that's how you learn, riding something that was tough to ride. And then when you got on a foam board, oh wow, yes, learned on the hard boards, but not the ultra hard boards like the heavy ones. That was my father's era.
Okay. And what was the first board that, this was when you were 8 or 9, but what was the first board that you really dreamed of that you were finally able to ride?
Maybe when I was 14, probably 15, there was a fellow named Bill Bragg in California, maybe the Ventura era, who turned into an Olympic kayaking coach. And he didn't shape it for me custom, but I ended up with a board of his that was like a pintail, like a small gun, kind of. And it was maybe 9.6, 9.8, but it was maybe the first maneuverable board that I had that I could ride a little faster wave on it and be able to have confidence that I was going to be able to make it.
Nice. And at those days, you said about, of course, sunset, then eventually pipeline. How was to surf those days, because today we see images from, of course, us that we're not living in Hawaii. We see images of overcrowded places. And because of the podcast, when I was able to talk to some of the guests, I don't know, like Joey Cabell or Greg Knoll,
the older guys.
The young art, they always told me, like, at that time, all these places, we were alone.
A lot. Mm-hmm.
So there is kind of jealousy for the people that are listening today and say, like, my God, you were getting all those waves by yourself. How did it work for you?
And sometimes at pipeline in the late 60s, Alessandro, because it would be 6 feet, user friendly. Sometimes pipeline can get that way about one day out of 10, but it can be. And it would be just very nice, and there would be nobody out. And you would be telling your friends there, right on the beach, right there looking up, come on, let's go out. It's really nice. Oh, no, I have a sore shoulder. Oh, no, I got to mow the lawn. No, I'm too tired. You go. So, okay. So you go out there by yourself and you get to choose whichever wave you want. Oh, no, that one's not too perfect. Oh, I'm a little bit out of breath. I don't want that one. Nowadays, although even now, a friend of mine, a Frenchman who is an artist, his name is Eric Marous. He likes a longer board, and he showed me a picture of pipeline this past spring, like maybe a year ago almost, not quite, a little bit less. That pipeline was like 5-6 feet and 4 people out.
Wow.
Pretty, so it can happen. If the wind changes, one time, or if the swell starts coming up a little bit. Maybe 2 years ago, I was out there, and occasional head high set, and only like 2, 3, 4 people out there. So it can happen.
Okay. So there is still a dream, there is still a hope for people out.
Even 2 years ago, I don't think 3, about 2 years ago, it was the day before the HIC Pro, a pipeline contest, right? Yeah. And the surf was 6 or 8 feet at a pipeline. I'm doing a roof on the beach for Volcom, right in front of the pipeline. Then I had my board in the car. I'm doing the roof, and I'm going, gee, I'm almost done. I have my board in the car, and my friend who is the manager of the Volcom house, his name is Kaimana Henry, and he is a pretty big young man, from Maui, I think, and he's like probably 220 pounds, just all muscle, and he and I are pretty good friends, and he was the guy that was paying me for the roofing work. So I know that if I paddled out, that he would see me, and that I could maybe get him to give me the shout in, like, go Jocko, and all the rest of the guys, the 30 other guys out there, they're mostly going right. And so I was waiting for, to my credit, I was waiting for a wave that would come a little wide so that I would be in position and nobody else would. And so I would wait for those waves to come in, and there's enough of them that I had a very good time, caught 5-6 waves. And I had a time, and other people, they're looking like, gee, aren't you a little old to me? No, I'm having fun. Here, you want to give me a half a step? I'll take your wave too.
Well, of course, maybe they didn't know who were you, right? As soon as you're in Hawaii, I'm sure people understand that they not only you are taking their wave if you want, but they need to give you their wave because of respect, right?
Yeah, but because I wait, I'm patient. I'm not trying to get over there right in the middle of them and take off where they're taking, because that's a low percentage attempt. I wait because there was as I was doing the roofing work, I saw that there was enough waves, going to the right and to the left, and enough waves in a set. If there's only 2 waves in a set and there's a 6 to 8 minute interval, the odds are not so good if there's 30 people out. I'm sorry, you're wasting your time almost.
Yeah,
especially
the roof of the Volcom house, you have an advantage point, so you could
right.
You could
see where the line is. Yeah.
It's good. So if we go back to what we were saying, one thing it was, of course, learning how to surf in not like super precise, you want to say, surfboards, so you had a lot to learn about that, and as well you had the possibility to try quite a lot because the waves were not crowded. And do you think the combination of the two things were able to create, not only in your case but also in many other
young men, of my era,
men of your era, a lot of champions, right? So
like Jeff Hackman, Jimmy Lucas, people that followed on the footsteps of Joey Cabell and Paul Stroud and Butch Van Arsdalen. These guys were like our heroes, even though they were only like 3 years older, 4 years older. In some cases, like Georgie, like 10 years older. But we still looked up to them, and if they were out the same day we were, and we got a nice wave, and they said, "Oh, nice takeoff," that we were going, "Oh, wow, okay, Georgie just went,"
It's nice, no? It's rewarding.
It is. And so I recognize from those days, because those moments stuck with me, how good it also would feel for someone who's 40 years younger than I am, or 50, say, or more, 60 years old or younger than I am. They're 13 years old, 14, 15 years old. And, they get a good wave, and I compliment them on it because it's in my blood to be complimentary rather than selfish. And the kid got a good wave, but I can do better. Never mind that.
No, there should not be competition, not matter for the age, but also, again, one thing is to be competitive, right? The other thing is to envy, right? So be competitive is acceptable. To envy other people wave or success, that doesn't bring a good
good energy, good feeling. No,
exactly. And we were talking about the Duke contest. So you met the Duke, obviously, right?
Well, yes. There's a movie you should try to look up and watch. It's called Waterman.
Yes.
It has me talking about the Duke. We were in Peter Cole's backyard about 3-4 years ago when Peter was still around, and was in the second Duke contest that actually it was in the first Duke contest that Jeff Hackman won. I was the water patrol, white shirt on, picking up people's boards. And so I caught a couple of waves in between the heats, and some of the judges are asking Jeff, who won the contest, hey, who's your friend out there? Oh, hey, Jock, well, maybe we'll invite him next year, because I'd been living on the North Shore for some years by then, and been surfing Sunset for a couple of years, not many. And so the next year, 66, when Ricky Gregg won it, I got lucky and got 5th place. I might have placed a little higher, except the one good wave that I had, I thought that I was going to get hit. And so I was afraid, and I jumped off, and my friends are going, oh, why did you bail? You should have kept going, because I had a good board. But so Jeff was integral in my getting into the second Duke contest. And then after that one, right after the one that Ricky Gregg won, which was in the spring, maybe February of 1967, because there's a long waiting period, maybe 5-6 months. Right after that, Jeff asked his manager, Kimo McVeigh, who was Duke's manager, hey, get Jock on the Duke surf team. And Kimo was reluctant at first, but Jeff kept on him. And so probably in April or May of 1967, Kimo got me into the Duke surf team, and I got to go as part of the Duke's entourage on a trip to Las Vegas, to California and Las Vegas. And I got to meet Bob Goulet, and I think it was probably a recognizance at that time of the quality of the surfing that a lot of us youngsters who emulated the good people like George and Joey and Paul Stroud. Paul Stroud was one of our big heroes. Phil Edwards to some degree, but Paul, because he was a Hawaiian surfer. Joey, to some degree. But we looked at a lot of the old Bud Brown movies, and we saw people riding Makaha like Georgie Downing, Wally. And so we very much idolized these guys. And when you're with a group of your peers, 4 or 5 of you are out in the water at one time, you're pushing each other, like the momentum generation. 30 years later. And I know a lot of those guys now, like Ross Williams and Kelly. I did some ripping work for Kelly, Kalani Robb, the guy from the Big Island who surfs pretty good sized jaws. Who am I thinking of? Shane Dorian.
Yeah.
All these young guys, they're pushing each other, only more. You wouldn't take off, you're a sissy. You would, a little bit more pressure than when we used to, push each other. But that's the evolution of a sport like, surfing, skiing, whatever.
At that time, being on the Duke surfing contest was the biggest thing, right?
It was right after Makaha, because the emphasis started to change to the North Shore back in the early 60s. Makaha was still big in 63, 4, 5, but then Duke surf contest came in, and people were going, oh, wow, because North Shore has more waves than Makaha because of the way that the island is situated. If you have a little bit of a north swell in it, Makaha is small. But since the emphasis changed, and TV, of course, reared its ugly head. So I'm not against TV because I made some money off of a commercial that some friends of mine got me into, where I'm doing a little surfing and they have me drinking a glass of energy carnation instant breakfast.
Okay.
All on in a glass. And so I made residuals up, and I'm like 18, 19 years old, right? And I'm getting $300-$400 checks every couple of months. I'm going, whoa, look at this, Back then, $300 was a lot of money.
Okay. You would have redone it now, or thinking about it, or it was good money and that's it,
It was good money. It was good money back then, when I first started roofing 50 years ago, Alessandro, I was probably making $15-$20 a day, having to drive into town, and make very little money because I was just learning to do things. But maybe that was 1972. And then the next year, I was hired by a union company working up at Mililani, a big housing development. And that was much easier because of the nature of the work. Instead of putting on cedar shakes, which, is more of a involved jigsaw puzzle kind of a roof, I was doing asphalt shingles, and every shingle goes down. It's mostly very simple stuff. You just have to learn how to make your cuts and how to nail. In the old days, up until 30 years ago, it was all hand nailing. You hold the nails in your hand, have maybe a box on your chest with the nails dropping down. You strip them out, boom, 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 boom.
It was very physical.
Oh yeah, and you had to hand load a lot of your bundles, and so I'm happy that my shoulders aren't completely arthritis ridden, now. My knees a little stiff, but that's why you recognize the value of doing exercise, stretching.
Exactly.
Yeah, very important. Ride the bike or walk, whatever.
Super important. In your life, you met a lot of surfers. Was there a meeting with one of them that was particularly meaningful for you?
Well, besides Duke. Yeah, because in that movie Waterman, it has a picture of me accepting the winner's trophy for 1967, the third contest before there was money, and shaking his hand, and just tried to do my best,
As far the tales are saying, he had like such huge hands, isn't it?
Yeah, your hand would disappear when you go to shake his hand. You couldn't see your hand anymore, gone. But he was a wonderful man, very, very easy to talk to. But as far as someone else besides that, it was probably the old guys like Wally Freuseth, George Downing, Paul Strow, and, seeing Phil Edwards show up at our home break down here, he'd be paddling out and you try to get away in front of him, and try to hang 10, look. So, but maybe Butch Van Aertsdalen, because he was such a good pipe surfer from California. Meeting him, you could see his energy, because he was a very gifted athlete, football, baseball, all-American kind of a sportsman in San Diego, where my girlfriend is now. And there's some people that still remember him over there that I'd like to talk to. But, I would say one particular person, that's hard, because there's so many of the older guys that I looked up to, but maybe, I would meet people out of the water like Joey Cabell, or George Downing, like that. But seeing them in the water and seeing them how they moved and being able to surf with them, I said there's probably 8 or 10 of the older guys, and of the younger guys more my age, meeting Nat Young, say, for the first time was good. And going to California right after I got out of high school, when I was 17 years old, I went and lived with my cousin, who was living right north of San Diego as a lifeguard. And his name was Paul Krause. He's my mom's sister's son. Then I was in the world contest in that fall, after when I just turned 18. So meeting some of the people from Great Britain, Rodney Sumter, and then from Australia, and Nat Young took over the title maybe of the best surfer in Australia from Midget Farrelly.
Yeah, of course.
Being able to meet these kind of guys were very educational, very stimulating for me as a surfer. But I can't say that meeting Nat made me that much more impressed with the importance of trying to get better in surfing than, say, George or Wally. So I would say the older guys, but my father and I only surfed together maybe once or twice.
Oh no!
So
really,
because he died young. He was he had melanoma when he was like 58, 59.
Wow. Sorry for
but he got to see. He worked on his fishing boat. He was in the Coast Guard, during the Korean War up in the Aleutian Islands. But he worked on board, probably the worst thing, he worked on board his the Fish and Wildlife, the state organization, maybe it was federal, after he got out of the Coast Guard here in Hawaii. And he was working on board with his shirt off. And so he was getting sunburned. And because he was a cigarette smoker, he had some chemicals, already in the blood. Maybe he had a drinking problem too. My sister told me about it. But he had melanoma on his back, and he didn't catch it early enough, and it went in behind his lungs. And when he was like 57 or 58, when I was about 25, so that was 50 years ago. Wow, not long. Yeah, 50 years ago that he visited over here. He got to see my two sons. So he got to see his grandchildren. My youngest, Gavin, was about less than a year old, but his brother was, 2 years old. And so he got to see that they were handsome kids, and, that I was taking them in the ocean and stuff. But it was too bad. It was too bad. But we surfed together once when I was in the 7th grade. This would have been 1960, 61, maybe 61, around, when I was going to school in Manoa Valley, across the street from the University of Hawaii there. And somebody came up from the office and said, "You have a visitor down at the office. It's your father."
Wow.
Okay. So I go down there and he says, "Come on, son, we're going to go surfing." So I went down. He rented out some boards, and I remember seeing him after I'd ridden a wave. He was on an outside wave, maybe 6 feet, pearl diving up to his neck. But I think that maybe was the only time we never actually rode a wave together, which I regret. I remember being out in the water out here at Shuns Reef and seeing somebody with a mask and snorkel tooling around, away from me. And then he started to come up towards me a little bit. I'm going, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And he took off his mask. "Hey, Sonny." "Whoa, pops." But before that, when I was in the Army in 1970 in Monterey, he came to visit me. He was on his fishing boat, and I came to visit. I walked down Monterey Pier and got to come see him there. I think I had my uniform on too, because he in the Coast Guard was a lieutenant commander. He was an officer.
Okay.
Maybe he thought that I didn't play my cards right, only being, a lowly enlisted man. But I was lucky because a friend of mine switched my orders when I was in the first part basic training in 1970, from being a telephone pole climber to being a company clerk at a language school there in Monterey. So, just a clerk typist, a personnel specialist.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for my friend who changed my orders, I might have gone to Vietnam as a field wire repairman, a telephone pole climber. Probably would have not come back. I saw my bunkmate years later, and he said, "Yeah, a lot of guys that were in our basic training unit from Hawaii didn't come back. They went into the infantry. They went to Vietnam."
It was a sad period, right?
It was for a lot of young men. Unfortunately, we are still kind of on that track, aren't we?
Yeah. We don't learn from our own mistakes, right? We try.
No. So did the government in Italy learn from Berlusconi at all?
I don't know.
I don't know,
I don't know. This is a good one.
huh? Boy.
Talking about fun, what was the best wave of your life? And
Uh,
remembering that particularly.
well, my memory is pretty good because of the way I was educated and because of the things that mom encouraged us to do at home. But maybe it was a wave at Laniakea, maybe 8-foot day, maybe 8 to 10 feet. But it's a long wave, a very nice peeling wave. And my friend over here, who's a lifeguard by pipeline, his name is Dave Wassel, very good pipeline surfer. He said he was in Morocco like 15 years ago, and he was surfing the wave that it's a long point wave with big, nice tubes on it, peeling like half a mile long. And he showed me some video of when he put the camera on the back of his board, the tube coming over in front of him, over, how long he was riding. But I had a wave, not that good, but close to that, where maybe I was going in and out of the curl like 2 or 3 times, and then there was the last. It would be breaking slightly in front of me, but I knew it was pitching out, so maybe I could backdoor it. And the last section was starting to pitch out in front of me like 20, 30 feet, but it was still hollow enough. And so I told myself, I'll try this one too. And I came out the far end, and I was so astonished at making it that I fell off. But just having made it that far maybe qualified that wave as one of the best ways. But there have been several waves at Jocko's that were just so perfect. I didn't get way back in there. My son does that. Yeah, and he takes off late, and he pulls up. Like he does that at Pipeline too. But there's a picture that I will send you of that my friend who is from Finland, he took of Moana Jones. Maybe you've already seen it from last year at the backdoor shootout. Moana Jones. Yeah, the really nice wave at Pipeline. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have seen. Amazing.
So I have prints of that, different prints that Bardo Sutter gave to me, and he says he got another one because she won again this year.
Yes,
and so he said he got maybe another picture like that. But so he gave me some prints on paper, but then he also gave me some prints on metal. Where you don't. Yeah, they like Haleiwa Joe's, the restaurant. That's what they have mostly up on their wall. They don't have the framed picture so much. They have the metal print. So anyway, so the best wave of my life, it's probably at Jocko's as far as a nice, enjoyable. I could see what was going to happen, and the wave kind of peeled, in front of me a little bit. I had one only about 2 months ago that I was telling my girlfriend, that's probably one of the top 2-3 waves I ever had in my life. But then I saw some footage of it. I'm going, maybe not. Maybe I was just thinking, So there, but nothing really, really, really stands out. But there have been good waves at Laniakea, a wave or two at Sunset Beach during the Duke contest where I was in the tube. As a matter of fact, it was kind of not a conscious effort on my part. It's like the wave passing me up, and it covered up like twice in one wave, and that's basically how I won the contest, getting a couple of cover-ups.
Not bad.
But no money.
No money, huh? What is that?
The next year they put in money.
Oh my God!
It didn't matter to me. Would have liked money, but
yes, of course. I was thinking about how amazing is that Moana Jones is winning the pipeline competition, for being an Hawaiian and kind of wild card, like at the beginning, and it's fantastic, to win in front of your own crowd.
Right. Well, it's not that amazing considering the amount of hours she put in there surfing with Derek Ho. But it's nice to see somebody local getting some wins and then getting to go on tour. And because she won the contest just a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks less than that, maybe a week ago, that now she's more. Her name is up there a little bit more solidly, and that she can, have more authority in the tour, and she feels maybe a little bit more comfortable too.
Let's talk about being a waterman. In your opinion, what defines a true waterman today?
Being able to have several disciplines that you're confident and capable of, like my son, about 6 or 8 years ago, he was given the Waterman of the Year award by Quicksilver. And there's the trophy right over there because he saved somebody a pipeline because a friend of his at whose surf school he was working in California, they had to, all the instructors had to know CPR. And he's paddling back out a pipeline one day and he sees a guy pulling up on a leash and a foot comes above the water. So he having paddles over there and he duck dives underneath. He's a big guy too. He duck dives underneath him and brings him up and does CPR on him right there, brings another board and makes a raft. And he basically saved the guy. And so being able to recognize trouble is a big part, but being able to apply the necessary tools to save somebody, but also being able to talk to somebody. Oftentimes I'll paddle out at Jocko's or Chun's. Just a couple months ago, I'm paddling out from across the bay from Jocko's because my mom's house is getting some construction done on it. And it's not easy to paddle out from there, even though the new owner has let me paddle out from there before. So probably in the future when the house gets built, I'll be able to have parking privileges again. But I'm paddling across and here's this guy trying to paddle against the rip, right? Because the two waves are coming in and the white water is going to go right out. And if you're paddling against it, especially if you can see that the guy is not paddling easily, he's tired, right? So I go over there and I tell him, sir, you need to paddle right over here into the water. So basically being a waterman is being able to recognize trouble before it gets too bad, have the tools to be able to do something about it, or be able to get somebody to help you in a situation where if there's more than one or two people, like a pipeline. My landlord up here in Pupukea, he was a fireman one night when the lifeguards were already off duty and they got a call of some people in trouble at pipeline. They'd gotten swept off the beach. They're out there in the water. It's like 8 feet plus. And one of the firemen that was on duty here, he was a substitute guy. And even though the captain, who was a good friend of mine, George Koo, asked him, hey, are you okay in this? And the guy said, yeah, he wasn't. Right. And so he almost had to get rescued too. But wow, like 5 people out in the water. And if the firemen didn't go out there, probably at least half of them would have drowned. Right. But our city government here still has a lot of shortcomings as far as being able to train and equip the fire department. The lifeguards, not so much. The lifeguards are a little bit more on it because they realize what would happen if they did not have as many jet skis as they do right now. Brian Calano was one of the first 20 years ago to be able to bring attention to the necessity of having the jet skis available to the lifeguards. But the fire department has been dragging its heels and somebody's going to drown, and it's going to not necessarily be the fireman's fault. It's going to be their chiefs and who made the decision a couple of years ago not to bring in more jet skis because a fireman drowned while they were training on the jet skis. But that happened probably because their training officers in the fire department were not competent. They should have gotten lifeguards to help train the firemen.
Yeah,
they didn't.
And lifeguards, they know what they do, right? So
anyway, so being a waterman is being capable of handling stuff that's above what you think your ability is. You just step up a little bit, let the adrenaline come. And maybe if you don't have a surfboard, maybe like a good example, a friend of mine, a lady, good surfer, Marjorie, she was out one day and it's like 6 or 8 feet and a shark attacked her, hit her in the leg bad. Whack. And my friends were over at Jocko's. She was like maybe 100 yards away, maybe less, probably 100 yards. And they saw it happening. And so they paddled over yelling, making noise, and the shark went away. But she was bleeding very badly. But there was a guy in the water who also came over, had a waterproof cell phone.
Okay.
So she was very lucky because if he didn't have that cell phone, By the time they got her into the beach, maybe she would have bled to death. But because they cell phone, there was a jet ski not too far away, right? Was able to come in and get her. So I still see her around. But
at the beginning of the interview, you told me that giving a wave to somebody else
is almost as good a feeling as riding it yourself. I still feel that for a long time.
Then I ask you what was the best wave of your life, and then you reply to me. But what was the best or meaningful wave that you gave to somebody else that you don't regret?
I think I remember this a couple of times actually, and both of them were close to Laniakea. One was at Laniakea, where this young lifeguard. Must have been eight years ago or so, and it's like a 15-foot face wave, nice wave, good size, set wave coming in, and he was in position, and he's actually kind of a turkey. He's not that nice of a guy, but he's okay or tries, and so here comes this wave, and I tell him, "Go, Bruce, go," because I was in position, but he hadn't had a wave in a while, and he caught this wave, big, long, couple 100 yards, perfect shape, and he comes back up, and he's very, very, very happy. But then, maybe 5 years before that, right on the Jocko's side of Laniakea, north side of Laniakea, there's a break called Haltons. It's in between Laniakea and Jocko's, maybe 100 yards from each break, and these waves were coming off the corner of Laniakea, maybe 12 or 15 feet again, like this one that Bruce caught. And there's this fellow Rudy, who I encourage. The wave was coming, and he's like next to me, and I go, "Come on, Rudy, this wave's for you." And in actuality, it was a little bit bigger than I felt comfortable riding myself, so I was very happy to give it away. And Rudy, he was capable. And he comes back out and he's going, "That's the best tube I've ever had in my life." So maybe the wave that I gave Rudy, not the one I gave, the one I gave Bruce was good. And then another one on a similar day, because Laniakea can get really perfect sometimes, but most of the time it's so crowded. But Alan Sarlo, big Sunset Beach and Malibu surfer, good surfer, very muscular, stocky guy. And I was paddling for a wave at Laniakea, couldn't quite get into it. So I saw Alan over there. I go, "Go, Alan." I pulled back, and he told me later, "Oh, man, that wave was so good." So, but very early in my life, one of a good wave, maybe that I didn't, no, I don't think I gave it to this guy. It was my brother, and we were at Malaya, and it wasn't very crowded. There's only 3 or 4 of us out, which will never happen nowadays. Never happen. Last summer, we had a big south swell, and you probably saw some pictures. Malaya was like 10 feet, maybe bigger on the sets. But the winds are blowing so hard that 3 guys would try to take off. One guy would get blown off, the other guy would curl up to his neck, and the last guy, he might make it. He had a big enough board, but this day was like 3 or 4 feet, chest high, but then a 6-foot set came in. My brother was outside, and mostly he was a boogie, not a boogie board, a pipo boarder. Until then, maybe a year before he started surfing more. He was like 15 years old, maybe less, maybe only 14. But he was capable already, stand-up board. And he got a 6-foot wave, and Malaya is very fast, right? And he was in the right position and had good shape, and he's able to make it. He's having to go as fast as he possibly could, 5th gear, or 6th gear, I don't know. But so that wave almost progressed him from being kind of a beginner to being all of a sudden a journeyman, just one wave, because he realized, "Oh, this is what I need to do." Okay, I'm in. But so he and I have ridden a few waves. Oh, we both had a wave at Laniakea, another big day, offshore wind, like 20 miles an hour plus offshore wind, 10-foot wave. And we're both riding along. And my son is on the inside because he has a short board, and we see him ahead of us, and we go, "Come on, Gavin, take off. So he takes off, he drops in behind us, right? And I see him back there. I want to give him room. I go to kick out, and my board almost comes over the falls on it. But so there's a lot of ways that are like that. But the best wave probably that I ever gave somebody was that wave of Rudy's.
Okay.
I mean, So there are several, but that one stands out in my mind because of how stoked he was, how happy he was. And when he came back out, he was just completely ecstatic. It's, oh,
But giving away a wave or surfing with somebody, it's very important because it gives us the opportunity to tell these stories and also to have these stories kind of confirmed by whoever was in the water with us.
Like even Luke Shepherdson during the Eddie contest.
Yeah,
he and this other fellow, Mikey Red, were in the same position, and Mikey could have gone, but he was a little out of position, and he told Luke to go, and it might have been the wave that won the contest for him.
you see. So at the end, and anyway, some stories that you can tell in a podcast, you can tell back on the shore, you can, and are satisfied. Much better than some other stories where we are by ourselves. And then nobody believe us because there is nobody that can certify that was the biggest wave or the giant much.
Or what's even worse is you're out there by yourself. Somebody else sees the wave, and they tell somebody else, and that somebody else go, well, maybe because he's out there by himself, he was crazy. Maybe, yeah, he was on acid. I will tell people that he was on acid. Which was not true. And that's a story that you have probably heard about me at Waimea one night in 1968 or so, 69, 68 probably, that I was going out late at night, and I didn't know there was occasional closeout waves. I think Peter Cole maybe and Fred Van Dyke had just paddled in, and I saw Peter years later, and he said, "Didn't you know that there was occasional closeout waves, Jock? We saw you paddling out." But I didn't see any. And so I got a couple waves, then I got caught inside right before dark. But people invented the story that not only was I on LSD, but that I was surfing after dark by moonlight. and that worse is yet to come. When I wiped out one time when a big set came in, that to come in, I swam up to Pipeline. This is what the story was. Complete fabrication. And it got repeated in Surfer's Journal. And I called up Steve Pesman. I go, Pez, this is a myth, don't you? And he's, oh, just let it go. I said, it's just part of the legend, Jock. Let it go. Steve, no. So I had to let it go. The guy that published that, Matt Warshaw. His name.
Of surfing, right? So and so he actually published a retraction of okay,
a couple of years. But, well, good for him. It does me a lot of good now, but it's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind.
It's okay. So we're gonna finish our interview with a short Q&A, question and answer session. Answer, please, the first thing that comes up to your mind. Okay. Let's try. The best surfboard that you ever rode?
It could have been a board that I shaped myself, which sounds kind of self-aggrandizing, but no, it was like a 7.4, 7.6 that I shaped when I learned how to shape it. Plastic Fantastic. It wasn't
nice,
poorly shaped, except that I made one rail. I worked on one rail too much, and so I had to even out the other rail, and so the board only ended up like less than 18.5 inches wide, but I had some V-bottom, and it was like a little bit of a rounded pintail, like a round tail mostly, but it rode Pipeline very well because it was narrow and because it could turn easily and didn't have too skinny the rails, and kind of full, a little bit fuller rail, but not boxy at all. And so that could have been the best board but I've had several good ones, and the one I have right now from Chuck Andrus is an 8.5 that has got nice low rails, but they're full enough so that you get the bite from the low, but you have the release from the fullness, and it will ride 10 foot like Lani Akea was out, and some of the faces were 15 feet, and it rode well there, but it also will ride 3 or 4 foot waves at like Ehukai Sandbar. So that's another. So those 2 boards maybe are the best boards I've ever had.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Who is your favorite shaper of all time?
Well, I used to say up until 8 or 10 years ago that it was Dick Brewer, but I know that there's other shapers in the world like Joe Quigg, who's an excellent shaper, and his son even to some degree. But also later on, I grew to like because Tom Parrish learned a lot under Brewer that basically his boards were they were a reasonable facsimile. I don't want to say that they were not a copy, but they were a close match to Brewer's as far as the top and bottom rockers, the foil, if you will.
Yeah.
So Tom Parrish was his shapes were nice. I owned maybe 1 or 2 of those. Owl was okay. I don't like Owl too much as a person, but his shaping ability is good. But and nowadays, Chuck Andrus is a good shaping friend of mine. I did some roofing work for him, and he made me a nice 8-foot swallowtail that could ride if you were smaller. But also Charlie Smith over on Maui. He grew up here in Haleiwa. He's a good shaper. And then in between those 2 guys, my friend Roger Hines, who shaped me some boards back in the 90s, and it looks like we are going to enter into a deal where he's shaping under the Bear label that he and Randy Rarick were shaping under, that a fellow here on the island of Oʻahu got the rights to, and maybe they'll make a longboard model that they're going to mass produce in Japan from this guy named Clyde Beatty, who's got a big shop over there in China, and the Chinese like him a lot because he's doing something that will be helpful to the thousands of Chinese that are having more and more leisure time and can go down to the beach. So Charlie Smith, Chuck Andrus, Roger, and my friend George Coop. He shaped me a couple of very, very nice boards with a lot of concave in the bottom. So George, 4 or 5 guys after Dick that learned how to, get the good foil, the good thickness contours, the good rocker on the boards. And I was lucky to get a couple from all these guys. And so it's fun to be able to have a board because I'm older and I need to be able to, I can't ride a board that's 2.5 inches thick like my son. I'm sorry. He's a great pal. But if I have to caddy for him in a surf contest, it's embarrassing because I can hardly keep up with where he needs to be. So anyway.
And personal question, what's your favorite song or kind of music?
I like a lot because my girlfriend in San Diego likes to dance. She's ballet trained. She played the cello, and we both like music you can dance to. So I like Afro-Cuban music.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, very good rhythm to it. Very danceable. Afro-Cuban, and as a second, I can't think of. I like some ballads. I used to like Bob Dylan a lot in the old days. Some of his newer stuff I don't like so much. Ray Charles, soul music, country and western music, some, but Afro-Cuban music is probably my favorite. But
dance, so it's good. Yeah. It's good.
Awesome.
Favorite surf spot?
Jocko's.
Yeah, I think
because I'm not just prejudiced because it has my name. It's because it is an excellent wave. It has a wide takeoff area. You can sit inside or you can sit outside, and it has the potential when you have a little north of the swell, mostly west, but it has a little north that bends, and that makes the tube bigger. It has actually a world-class tube in it that you can get disappeared quite well. And on a good day, you know exactly where you can take off. You can take off pretty deep and still be able to make it. It has a lot of user-friendly days, Alessandro, but it has some mean days too. I've had days where I paddle out and some waves come from the middle of the channel and push me into the impact zone. I just got pounded unmercifully within an inch of my life and held down, and I never even caught a wave. I just went, okay, I know when to my cards. That's it. I'm going in. So it's not because I'm prejudiced, but it's because it is a good wave, and on a good day, it can be a lot of fun, even when it's big.
Favorite surfer of all time? I don't want to get you in trouble, but
No. I like Nat Young. I like Joey Cabell, but maybe as far as smoothness, like he was influenced by Cabell and Barry Calampuni, Jimmy Lucas.
okay.
The time he spent at Honolulu, Jimmy Lucas, he ranks right up there. But I really like, the athleticism of Kelly Slater. He taught himself over the past 6 or 8 years, maybe 10 now, that to be able to do aerials. He realized that if he couldn't, then he was not going to be winning contests like he used to do. So yeah, Jimmy and Kelly, but in the old days it was Paul Stroud, and we looked up to Joey because Joey was such a virtuoso. He'd learned from the days when there was no skegs on boards, from when Duke was still around. Duke was probably still surfing when Joey was young. But Jimmy is very smooth, and because he was living on Kauai, he would surf very, very good size Honolulu Bay. And he was a bartender at Duke's here. I think he lives in town. I did some roof work for him not too long ago. But he came out to Jocko's one day, and he had knee surgery not that far before, and he was kind of reluctant to move in. But then when he finally did, I realized that the instinct was still there. It's just that he needed to overcome that fear of the knees. But
no, it's true what you're saying. You have to learn a new style, but I think can learn anything. It's such.
There's so many of the younger surfers, like Italo, right? What is it, Ferreira?
Yes.
Excellent surfer, excellent ability to be able to adapt, to be able to get hit by a big curl and to recover, and not let it get to you. There's 15 or 20 of the younger surfers that are just admirable, and I really like seeing them surf. Well, John Florence, our local guys, they're not slouches.
Not at all. The last question is a little bit unusual, but since you talk about your girlfriend many times during the interview, I'd like to know your best relationship advice.
Make sure that you can see what makes her happy, and if it's making you happy, you need to make sure that it's the way she likes to make you happy instead of the way you like to be made happy. Although sometimes it's the same thing, right? But she's a very good cook, and over the past 20 years, she's done most of the cooking, even though I'm not a bad cook. And so just this past year, we got a big grill, and we started to grill portobello mushrooms, right? Or some hamburgers like that. And so I taught her, because I was raised with fireplaces most of my life, because my mom was in the mountains in California. We have a fireplace, even though right on the beach over here, I always, was good at making a fire.
Yes, of course, from an Italian perspective, food on the table counts a lot in a relationship.
but I always wash the dishes, and she likes the way I clean up the kitchen. But recently, I've said, hey, let me do some of the prep stuff. If you want me to mind the pot over there, but I can cook. There's simple stuff like you go to Costco, you get a chicken for $7, $6, and after you have a little bit of meal, you take the meat off the bones, and then you get a can of Prego and a green bell pepper, and you make cacciatore.
Nice. Yes.
Simple. But I can make a nice casserole, and plus I have a lot of friends that are fishermen, Alessandro. So just today I got some fresh tuna, some fresh ahi, nice. My friend goes down and he cuts it up, and so I have some of that in the cooler, and I need to take some to my friend up the hill who's I'm going to call him up here in a few minutes. He is a appliance repairman, and he just helped me today on the dryer. And I told him that, because I was in touch with my fisherman friend earlier this morning, that he had some ahi, that I was going to bring him a piece. And so I'm glad we're talking about food.
It's almost dinner time for you. Yes. Eric Gordon, the son of Larry Gordon of Gordon and Smith.
Oh, Larry Gordon, yeah, Gordon Smith, yes. I saw him not too many years ago because of a contest that I used to go to in San Diego. It's been going for 30 years, but go ahead.
His son Eric, which I interviewed, he told me, Alessandro, doing the dishes is very good because at least we learn about water dynamics,
Oh, yeah. Well, in California, it's very important. My girlfriend appreciates that I'm not using too much water.
Yeah.
So I use as little water as I can and still get them clean, not leave a bunch of soap on them,
Oh, no, but of course. We need to be eco-sustainable, eco-friendly. Thank you so much, Mr. Sutherland, for being on the show with me today.
Sure.
And aloha, and I really hope to talk to you very soon.
Yes, well, very, very much my pleasure, Alessandro.
Thank you so much.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!